Now that was surprising. I just watched the launch for the ZV-E1 and I have to say, that camera is going to be something special. So let's talk about it.
Don't got no heart, I got an icebox. Brand new Mirrorless, swipe out the G-Shock. Moving slowly, I know the street hype. No more double, go ahead and detox. Came from the trenches, they ain't showing us no love. Tagging in the city.
Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Wayne. Today we're going to talk Sony cameras. I know all my Nikon fans probably not interested in Sony, but I think you should stick around and watch this video. Why? There's some tech in this camera that you're going to want in your future camera. So let's cover that. The ZV-E1 is Sony's next version of their vlogging camera. I would consider it to be a flagship vlogging camera. Why do I say that? This camera has tech inside of it that comes from a lot of different areas of Sony's camera development. For one, it has stability that seems to be on par with the Panasonic Lumix S5. Now, as we talk about the Panasonic, when that came out, everybody was like, wow, this thing is great, it's fantastic, and so on. We wondered why Sony didn't give us something along those levels. But they did, sort of. We got the Sony a7R5 with an AI chip and improved stability over the FX3, which was released about a month earlier. So how is it that this new camera is going to be even more advanced when it comes to stability? It is. So before we even talk about that, let's get to the crux of what this camera is. For someone who vlogs and wants something that is stable, without a gimbal, small, lightweight to carry around, this camera fits the bill. They have cinematic modes with moods, which I find very interesting. Those people who don't like to color grade, and you know, the younger generation, it's like every generation that goes through, you want something better than what you had before. So think about it. You can afford this camera because it is $2,200. You get it. You can set up the cinematic setting, choose different moods, and create your movie. No editing required. Dude, that is freaking awesome, right? In addition to that, the camera has like a tracking, framing thing built into it. I forgot what they call it. But basically, it allows you to use the camera to track yourself. If you're a content creator, or the way I look at it was, hey, I'm outside birding or I'm outside shooting, and I can set up my camera on a tripod and I can have a wide field of view and I can sit there, or rather stand there, and shoot some stuff. I'm mic'd up and I can turn around and talk about what's going on, walk to the right, walk to the left, and the camera will just track me without me doing anything, without anybody behind the camera to move it. How awesome is that? That's like next level thing right there, right? We saw Sony a couple months ago release PTZ's type camera that basically is a little base, you slap it down there and it can track, right? It can reframe, it can do all these things. But then you can have somebody back to controlling things as well. But the camera is designed to be able to track and reframe and keep your thing focused. But it's pricey. That tech is in this camera, okay? That's, again, next level stuff. So some of the things it has: intelligent tree capsule microphone. I have the ECM B1 mic, which allows you to control where you pick up your sound, directly in front, right, you know, next to you, or basically every sound, the ambient sound around you. So this camera has that built in. Do you need an external mic? Maybe, but in most cases, this thing seems like it can do a good job without an external mic, right? Those of us who are more advanced typically want an external mic, but most, you know, younger folks, it's going to be something that has everything built into it. Don't need to spend any extra money. So that's fantastic. 10-bit recording, 10-bit 422. Okay, that's awesome. S-Cine, S-Log, this thing has it. The thing that really boggles my mind, and let's get to the real deal. The sensor comes from the FX3 and the A7S III. So all that technology that we've been used to for the last few years are there and then improved upon. Low light capability built in. Awesome, okay? You go camping, you can take pictures by your firelight, shoot stuff out, you know, almost complete darkness, and it will still look good. This was the crux of the FX3 and the A7S III. That's an awesome feature, so this camera is going to get it as well. It is small and light. That's something that I think is going to cause a problem, but also it's an excellent thing for someone who's looking for a camera to vlog. I got the FX30 because I like the fact that it was smaller and lighter than the FX3. And the lenses on the APS-C side are small. Speaking of lenses, I remember last year when I got on the Sony side and I started looking in their lens lineup. And I saw they had released a couple of APS-C lenses, but also a couple small full frame lenses. I think it was a 24mm, 2.5, 40, and 50. One of those are 2.8 or something around there. This is slightly different, but basically 3 small lenses. And I thought to myself, those would go perfect for the FX30, but they're full frame. There must be a full frame camera that's going to come that this lens will fit on. In the showcase introduction, you saw multiple regular size full frame lens that they showcased. So you can utilize the big lens as well. Of course, if you go like a 70 to 200 or anything bigger than that, mounted on a tripod is probably your best way to go. If this thing is mainly plastic, you know, you don't want to damage your camera by ripping out the mount with a heavy lens. So having these smaller lenses that are lightweight, prime lenses, you're set. You don't need much more than that, right? The same menu system that you have in these newer cinema-based camera, okay, is going to be in this camera as well. So that's something that we don't think about, but it's something great to have. It won't have the full-fledged Cine EI setting like the FX3 and the FX30. That's stripped out because, of course, they don't want to give that level. They basically made it that you can set up the camera and they can do all those things for you. So why would you need that feature? And it can do up to 120 recording. But right now it's advertised as 4K 60. The 120 is going to be sometime in June, some kind of firmware update or something along those lines. Because the body's on the smaller side, I figure this camera is going to generate a bit more heat if you do long recording. But I believe most people utilizing this camera won't record for a long period of time. So, you know, that's not a major issue. You could take a couple seconds of footage, you may be talking, you know, about something, and that's it, it's the clip. You're not recording for like an hour plus. And if you do, the battery that they actually are going to use in this camera is going to be the same one that's in the bigger size alpha cameras. The FPZ-100 battery, that's a good one in the A7R5, FX3, FX30. It has good power, so utilize it in this camera. Yeah, it makes sense. So now, let's get to some of the things that I find annoying. And I think there are a lot of Sony users like myself now who are gonna find this annoying. A7R5 was $4,000 plus tax, $30.99, so yeah. AI feature was one of its key introduction. The AI tracking, AI subject recognition, pose estimation was something that we thought was exclusive to this camera. You're probably not going to see that in a lower line camera, but here we are seeing it on this ZV-E1. In addition to that, they've made a stabilization, which was on the A7R5, which is sitting right here, very good. Improved above the FX3. And now we have something to top that to the next level. Like you can walk around with this thing and footfalls are not going to make this camera shake. Much like if you watch the Panasonic Lumix introduction video, and people have been doing video on these things, you can walk with this thing and it basically tracks very well. Even though you may have a heavy foot, it basically managed all of that. And I think if Sony's doing the same thing that they do with their other cameras, where you have the focus breathing and you have the compensation. In a sense, usually when you do any kind of electronic stabilization, the edges tend to wobble a little bit. So they can crop in a bit to get rid of that. And I think it's going to be the same thing here. There's probably going to be a slight crop to allow them to get a really good center area where everything's going to look in focus and everything's going to look good. Imagine no more gimbals. And a lot of people, you know, always say, hey, I want to get a gimbal. I bought one. I used it a couple times, it was too heavy, didn't like it. It's sitting in the trunk someplace. Now you have a camera that you can walk around and don't need a gimbal. If they could activate that in my FX30, I'd be happy. If they could activate it in the A7R5, great. Man, what does this mean for the camera industry? Technology from flagship or top-end cameras are now in, it's not even a mid-tier, its price point is more like entry-level full-frame camera, right? And it is a full-frame, but it's a compact camera with an interchangeable lens. The A7R4, the A7 IV doesn't have this kind of tech. A camera that costs less than it has all of this stuff. Now granted, the photo features are stripped out, just like the FX30. It's not gonna take multiple shots, so there is some compromises to it to get it to the price point that it is. So we can say that's great, but at $4,000, why can't my camera as the people who have the A1? You know, that's supposed to be replaced at some point, but you figure that they can probably use software to turn on some of these features. I've been hearing people clamoring for a software update to fix some of these things or add some of these features into this camera. Realistically, I think Sony is preparing to launch a new A9 and A1. So why would they add it to your current camera when they can put it in a new camera and sell it to you for more money? What about Nikon and all of the guys? Nikon, we've been waiting for Nikon to come out with something soon. I would hope that they can have stability like this one. Hope, right? They've been talking about their Z30 for some time now, which is a vlogging camera. It doesn't have IBIS. Will this push them to add it to their camera and make the price a little bit cheaper? You know, I think that's a good way to go. I've seen the Z30, it's a little bit on the thinner side compared to this camera, but everybody knows if you're going to make something that can record for a long period of time with high codecs, you're gonna have to have a fan or a thicker body with heat sinks to dissipate the heat. And I think everybody at this point is probably looking at, hey, we need to do something along these lines, okay? This is a much cheaper camera and it has this much technology inside of it. What can we do for our line? Do we put this in our top level cameras only, or do we trickle it down to our lower end cameras? And I think trickling it down is gonna be the best thing that they can do. We want the technology. Most of us out here are clamoring for it. If you do video, this is something that you want. A lot of folks who just do photos only probably don't care about those features, but those of us who shoot videos a lot, we want those features in our camera. So I think this camera is turning the industry on its head, okay? Who knows what we're gonna see from the other guys in the coming months, but this is a big change. I remember last year or the year before, Sony said was by 2024 or so, 2025, they expect that smartphones will replace DSLRs. So DSLRs are going bye-bye, but you figure technology that used to be in flagship cameras are now trickling down to, you know, entry-level cameras. This is awesome for us as consumers. Competition is good. We get stuff that we want. So I'd like to hear from you guys. What do you think? Is this something that you'd want to buy? Is this something you want to see in one of the cameras that you are interested in buying? Does it even matter to you, these tech? I'd love to hear. Put in the comments. All right, I'll see you in the next one.